It's Friday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for another episode of the Alabama Slam podcast. I'm your host, Corey Hanna.
What's going on, guys? It's Patrick Akers.
And we've got a lot of stuff to get to this week, so let's jump right in. We've got, we'll start off with some Friday Night SmackDown. Pretty interesting episode. We had a few things we definitely want to cover. Patrick, what you want to talk about first?
Oh, man, there's so much. What do you want to talk? You want to talk about Bray Wyatt, Uncle Howdy?
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of speculation on who was actually playing Uncle Howdy.
Well, what did you think about the segment, first of all, before I give my thoughts?
It was interesting. We've hinted at this before, or not hinted at it. We've straight up talked about it. They might be dragging this out a little too long. With the fact that they've had Wyatt back for 2 months now, and
yeah,
there still hasn't been any sort of in-ring altercation. You know, there's been some stuff backstage that may or may not have been Bray Wyatt. But I don't know, man. I kind of feel like they've dropped the ball on this a little bit. But, I'm going to wait and see what the payoff is before I make too much judgment on it.
So at least I'll say that I'll give them credit for at least trying something, right? Like this is something. It's a thing that they're trying to do. They've clearly put a lot of thought into it, and so I appreciate the ambition. That being said, I thought this was stupid as hell. I thought this was just kind of dumb. And kudos to LA Knight, because LA Knight is, we've talked about before how working with Bray Wyatt and past iterations with The Fiend and all that stuff, it can be a difficult task, right? Trying to deal with the spooky, supernatural type of stuff.
Right.
To me, LA Knight, in the short amount of time that he's been doing this with Bray Wyatt, has come off as a guy who clearly has a ton of potential to be a star in that company. And so he gives a fantastic promo in the middle of the ring, and credit to him for not being scared, right? Saying hey, get out here. I don't give a damn about any of the spooky stuff. I'll kick your ass right here.
Yeah, he, like you said, to his credit, he's doing his best to make it work.
He's doing his best, right? And then Bray Wyatt comes out, and Bray does the usual kind of stuff. And then, we get the smoke after LA Knight beats Bray down, and then here comes Uncle Howdy. And this is, to me, where it just fell flat. The laughing, the mask doesn't look... I don't think the mask looks cool. I don't know how you feel about the mask. I don't think it looks kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Again, though, it's something, and they're attempting to do... why does not have the faction come out? Why I don't understand that Uncle Howdy. Why not have the Uncle Howdy come out and then just take off the mask and reveal who it is? How much longer are we going to spread this thing out to? We're going to go all the way to WrestleMania with this?
Yeah, if this goes all the way to Mania, something's wrong. They've really miscalculated the patience of the audience on this.
Yeah, or just how much actual story is here, right? We talk about it all the time, it's wrestling, it's not Broadway. He's got to get physical, fight somebody at some point.
Yeah, because are you going to do this with the next competitor to face Bray Wyatt?
Right. And so I don't know. This has been divisive, to say the least. There are some people who are really into this, and I think there's not a lot of people. The other half are people like me who are just man, we're moving so slow on this, and I'm scared that the payoff is not going to be worth it.
Yeah, it is dragging quite a bit. Maybe even if they drag it out to Rumble, almost that's still a while.
But even if it's at Rumble, it's just going to be Bray versus LA Knight, right? We're probably not going to get any kind of clearer picture on what this whole Bray, Uncle Howdy, The Fiend, whatever this stable of people is going to be. That probably does come at Mania. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about 3 months, with maybe one match. He probably only wrestles at Rumble against LA Knight, and then we get the payoff to whatever this is.
That's asking a lot, man.
It's testing the patience of the audience for sure, to say the least.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like feel like they were onto something at the get-go, bringing him back, and he had a couple really good promos, and then it's kind of lost its steam. Like, maybe it'll pay off, but it does. It's just there's only so long. You can give this your attention.
Right, and here's the thing with Bray Wyatt is that, like, what he's doing right now, this is supposed to be the good stuff. It was never the matches with Bray Wyatt, right? Like, we're not going to get a 5-star technical wrestling classic. We're not going to get, Austin versus Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13 out of Bray Wyatt, you know what I mean? So if they're not hitting on this stuff, then what is the payoff going to be? Because it won't be the matches.
It's a good question.
So, like, if you're not hitting home runs in these promos and these segments, then you're just they're going to be all singles, and they're going to feel like none of this has lived up to the hype. Because you remember how hyped we were 3 months ago when he came out of Extreme Rules? We were like, holy shit, this return, this was something. And then it's just kind of, in my estimation, gone downhill since then.
Yeah, it's petered out. Maybe we'll get a little more tomorrow night or tonight if you're listening on a Friday.
Yeah.
They got to do something. It's right before Christmas. Maybe they'll do something to elevate the story a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see. But LA Knight I think has gone up a level out of this, so at least there's something.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's move a little bit. Let's move on. We saw Ricochet versus Gunther. Friday night, pretty great match. Ricochet gave him hell. Pretty quality match for a Friday night, I thought.
Yeah, this was absolutely fantastic. I'm loving the more emphasis being put on Ricochet. I think that's a guy who can have a big 2023 in that company. And then, both of us feel the way we feel about Gunther. That dude is a rock star, superstar, should be future world champion. He has everything. It's curious. I was thinking about this when I was watching Gunther, and I was like, we're probably nearing the end of Roman Reigns being a full-time competitor here, probably sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah.
That means what is Paul Heyman going to do? Is Paul Heyman going to stick around? What if Gunther was the next Paul Heyman guy? Would that, because Gunther, you kind of need to. He's good enough on the mic, but of course there is no one is as good as what Paul Heyman is.
Sure.
And I think putting Paul Heyman, who at this point has now led 3 separate clients to world championships.
Yeah.
If Gunther becomes the next Heyman guy, like, that does so much for him. Because you would think at some point SmackDown's going to be, if they do what is anticipated and they separate the titles at WrestleMania so that Raw has its own individual world championship that it can go after. Because that's been the reports, right? USA Network wants their own title for Monday Night Raw. What better way than to put Gunther on Monday Night Raw and have him feud with Seth Rollins and Bobby Lashley? Because SmackDown's a little bit too top-heavy, just between Karrion Kross and Bray and Roman and all those guys. If Gunther's on Monday Night Raw, he's the guy, right? He's the mountain. So, just a little thought I had when I was watching this. I was like,
it's not a bad idea. Because you're right. What's Heyman going to do once Roman's gone? And it probably wouldn't hurt to have a mouthpiece with Gunther.
Yeah.
I'm always going to say it both ways, probably moving forward. I'm always going to say Gunther and Gunther. And
there's speculation that the WrestleMania match is going to be him versus Brock Lesnar. That'll be a hell of a match.
That might be entertaining, yeah. I'm not typically one that looks forward to Brock Lesnar matches, but that could be entertaining.
But Gunther hasn't had, since I've been watching WWE again and he's been on the main roster, he hasn't had a bad match with anybody.
No.
They've all been bangers for the most part. So, 2 guys, Gunther and Ricochet, that clearly the company is putting a lot of stock in for the near future. So, this was everything that we thought it was going to be. Gunther, the way he just chops people out of midair, is so damn badass. Those things sound like freaking a grenade going off whenever he hits somebody's chest. It's crazy.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, yeah, that was awesome. And then, what was the last? Oh.
The big news was,
We got to get the horns ready. John Cena's coming back.
Yeah, that's the big news. He almost went the full year without having a match on TV. So it looks like they're going to have him in, or at least being on TV.
So on December the 30th, it is Kevin Owens and John Cena versus Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn.
That's going to be fun as shit.
What a hell of a, somebody else mentioned this. I think it was Mass Man Show, another wrestling podcast from the Ringer Network that I listened to. And they brought up a good point. They were like, if you went back to like 2007 Ring of Honor and you were like, these two guys and Kevin Steen and El Generico in a few years from now are going to be in a big time match beside fucking John Cena, who at the time was the antithesis of everything Ring of Honor was about, right? And like, you're going to see that match and you're going to see them be in a ring together inside the WWE. Like, that's crazy. That's wild to think about.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you have any idea who the mystery opponent would be when they were talking about it?
I kind of had a feeling because that Variety article came out that was like John Cena's going to make his appearance on the last SmackDown of the year.
Okay.
And then there was the whole thing about, Kevin needs an opponent. And I was like, I wonder if they do. And then, of course, when they were there and then it happens, I was like, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And, it's a thing about John Cena, too, is he caught a lot of shit when he was on the top of the card as the champion. The Super Cena memes, all that stuff. I mean, wrestling was kind of... it was a little stale when he was the main guy in charge. You had moments, right? There was the CM Punk Money in the Bank match that they had, the two of them, in Chicago, which was just electric. But for the most part, the Cena crowd, it was half cheers, half boos. The people that loved him really loved him. The people that hated him couldn't damn stand him. But now that he's gotten older and he's not a full-time wrestler anymore, it's nice that he is now being appreciated probably in the way that he should have been when he was inside WWE. And so when those horns hit next Friday night, every single person in that audience is going to be on their feet. And it's going to feel like a big moment. And, this is obviously going to play into the Rumble somehow. Does this play into John Cena's potential WrestleMania opponent? Could we see a WrestleMania card that features the likes of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and John Cena? I mean, they're in Hollywood. They got to make a big splash, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how much of a splash you can make. Also,
I mean, that's a pretty damn big one.
That's a huge one. Also, I haven't fact-checked this. I believe this is true. Kevin Owens has to be the only guy in WWE history that within the same calendar year has been involved in a match with Stone Cold Steve Austin and John Cena. I don't think there's another guy that's ever done that. Because Stone Cold left and wasn't wrestling anymore when John Cena was first came in.
Oh, wow.
And then Stone Cold hadn't had a match since
19 years.
This past WrestleMania, yeah. So KO, that just tells you how much stock that company has in Kevin Owens, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So that's a feather in his cap. I mean, all four of these guys are going to be Hall of Famers one day. In the case of John Cena and Roman Reigns, it's wherever you want to position them in terms of all-time greatness. Michael Cole, when John Cena was announced, he was like, the greatest of all time is going to return. I don't know if we want to go, maybe we don't go that far. Well, I mean, we've talked about, I think John Cena's on the Mount Rushmore, but to say he's the greatest of all time, I mean, I don't know. Is he better than Flair? Is he better than, Hogan? Or maybe he's better than Hogan, but is he better than Stone Cold or The Rock? I mean, he's got longevity That's on tough, a lot of those guys, right? Yeah. But for me, like, what Roman Reigns has been doing since I've been watching WWE for these past, 6 months or whatever, outside of a handful of moments with John Cena, Roman Reigns has been far more entertaining than John Cena has been in this short run. I mean, we didn't get any kind of moment like... we talked about it before. Like, if you want to think about John Cena's best opponents, like, who are they? Like, Edge and CM Punk out of a 15-year-plus career at the top?
Yeah.
I mean, there were moments here and there with JBL in the beginning and stuff like that, but I think Roman, for his credit, has really made the most of these last couple of years, particularly coming off of the rocky start that began his career, right? Where he was basically rejected by the hardcore fan base as the company's top babyface there, despite him being pushed down their throats at WrestleMania main events and whatnot. And now he's changed that tune completely. So I don't know. This will be it'll be a big moment on SmackDown, and we will see what comes out of that.
Yeah, that's a hell of a way to go into the new year with that match.
No doubt.
Because obviously it'll be the main event that night. That'd be super awesome. Well, let's move on. Did you have anything from Raw for this week?
Let me see here. Let me go down here real fast. I got the results pulled up. Raw is still one of them things where, like, I just fast forwarded so much of it. So it's basically just trying to remember the segments. Rhea Ripley beat Akira Tozawa. So they got her wrestling men now. She still looks incredible. I mean, Rhea Ripley is... I don't know. I need to see a matchup between her and Bianca Belair kind of ASAP, because I think that's the money main event to be made. Yeah. Our boy Dexter Lumis got beat in a ladder match by a returning Bronson Reed, a.k.a. Jonah, from New Japan. Bronson Reed was an NXT guy, got released, went over to New Japan under the name of Jonah, actually beat Okada in the G1 Climax this year. And now he is back on WWE television as The Miz's lackey. And there's a lot of fans, the hardcore wrestling fans on Twitter, who are like, oh my God, how could you go from beating Okada to being in a program with The Miz, yada, yada, yada. Like, what a stupid-ass take that is, right? I mean, The Miz is one of the top heels in that company for over a decade at this point. Everything he does is important. He gets all those guys over. I mean, that's a hell of a position for Bronson Reed to be in. I mean, outside of the hardcore fan base and like wrestling Twitter, those people watching WWE don't give a damn about Okada. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's probably making better money working in WWE than he ever would in New Japan.
Yeah, for sure.
He's back in the States. Like, I don't know. Just sometimes we got to understand that, like, the hardcore wrestling fan is not the majority of wrestling fans. Not a lot of people are keeping up with New Japan.
Right. I mean, and honestly, the only attention I've paid to New Japan this year was when there was the crossover with AEW and New Japan, right?
Yeah. Yeah, which was great. Also, another great thing for Monday Night Raw was the Bloodline had invaded Monday Night Raw, and they were beating people up. And so, you know, we talk about all the time, something that AEW kind of lacks in is having forward momentum throughout the show and have it feel like you're leading up to something. So the Bloodline, every other segment, we're just beating the shit out of guys. And finally leading up to the very end, where you get the tag team match between Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins versus the Usos. And then you have a really great, really small, subtle moment where Sami Zayn jumps into the ring ready to attack Kevin Owens, and they stare off at each other, and Kevin Owens just takes his wrist tape off. And Sami just stares at him, and then Sami powders out of the ring and backs down and doesn't attack him, and that's how they go off the air. Just subtle little beautiful moments is really where I think that company shines at the most, or is at least is shining right now within these past couple months. You know, they build an entire Survivor game or War Games match. The whole history of War Games matches has been about, you know, bloody faces and all kinds of violence, and they build the whole match to lead up to a damn hug between two people. Like, that's just great storytelling. So, you know, everything that Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens and all these guys are involved in right now, it's working beautifully, and let's hope that they can land this plane come WrestleMania.
Yeah, don't fuck it up, Hunter. We've said that a few times recently.
Yeah, that's all you got to do.
Just don't fuck up.
Don't mess it up.
Well, before we get into Dynamite for the week, I want to take a second and talk about Takeshida's Twitter feed. Because you mentioned it last week, and I went over the weekend and just did a deep dive on his Twitter feed for the last couple of weeks.
It's great. Fantastic.
My man's is just trying to get his feet off the ground out there. It looks like I don't even know where his apartment is, but like it looks like he's having a you mentioned he like his mattress was there, but he didn't have his bed, and like his TV was just sitting in the floor, and like at one point he had somebody's dog. Didn't he have QT Marshall's dog or somebody's dog?
I think it was Colt. It might have been Colt Cabana's dog.
Colt Cabana. Yeah. Yeah, just chilling out wherever he is with his apartment. And he's had some car trouble. He got his car fixed. Eating Cinnabons. Just living it up.
I mean, they are leaving money on the table. Not having a camera crew follow this guy around for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's gold content. Even if you don't air it on Dynamite, right? Put it on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Takeshita to the States, episode 1. Just to make it like 8 minutes. You get thousands of views, you know? And you can, we got to see some of his personality, right? Because you and I both think he can be a big star for this company.
Yeah.
And so, again, like we talk about all the time, when it comes to professional wrestling stardom, it can't all be about the moves. You got to have something else that people can latch onto. And what better way to get this guy over as a sympathetic babyface than if he's dealing with these American adult problems that we're all dealing with, car trouble, whatnot, but also he's got the added hassle of trying to acclimate himself to a brand new culture.
Language barriers,
whatnot.
Yeah.
It'd be great stuff.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with the TV idea. Even if, like you said, even if it's just a YouTube segment each week.
And they're filming this reality show, I think, still, but like behind the scenes at AEW that's going to air next year for TBS or TNT or whatever. So maybe they're catching some of that content.
Yeah.
We don't know. Maybe they're holding it, and they're going to put that on the show.
Yeah. So let's get into the show. Ricky Starks. Hell of a promo and segment with Chris Jericho. He was just on fire on the microphone last night. Jericho's reactions were priceless. He did a really good job with his reactions and stuff last night. And what was the line? Ricky said, "You were built like an air fryer 6 months ago."
Yep.
And he was right. I think we had even mentioned it at one point, and then now Jericho's out there just shredded at 50-something years old. Just fucking brilliance from Ricky Starks. Crowd was into it all night too.
Yeah.
Fucking, they were on fire for Hayter and Sheeta later on, but yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, what a segment between these two.
This is kind of the best case scenario for Ricky coming off of the loss to MJF, right? Because you get him now paired up with Chris Jericho. He can kind of land some hits on Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho can take them because he's already a legend at this point. And so now his career should just be about getting guys over. And so Ricky just comes out with the built like an air fryer line. He said, "You look like a single dad on his 5th divorce." Just all kinds of stuff. And it helps, Ricky hasn't gotten a lot of mic time leading up to this moment. That was a critique you and I had, is that like, oh, okay, he's challenging for the AEW World title, but he's like barely on television. And now here we are. He's been on 3 straight weeks of television. He kicks off the show at this point. So we know from television ratings leading in, they have the Big Bang Theory lead in. So the most eyeballs they have on that program is right at the beginning. And so, boom, it says a lot about how Tony feels about Starks to start the program with him and let him come out. He looked like $1 million. The people were behind it. The more and more we see Ricky in the ring with a microphone, that's how we're going to get this guy into superstar status. Just letting him go out and have that kind of personality. And yeah, like you said, Chris Jericho, his reactions were, priceless. Meme potential. He knows exactly what he's going to do. I love Daniel Garcia wearing the stupid little shitty sunglasses. Just a little thing he can do, right? And you want to talk about how much Sammy Guevara is hated? My man's was just standing on the ramp, and they started a Sammy sucks chant.
Yeah.
He wasn't even doing nothing. I swear, if they could figure out what to do with that guy. He has I think a good comparison for him in the other company is Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah.
Where there is just a natural element where whatever it is just about their aura or their face or whatever, people just fucking hate them. But the thing that Sammy has...
goddamn chewing gum.
Yeah, Sammy has the same thing that... Or what Sammy has going for him that Dominic doesn't is that Sammy is 100 times better in the ring than what Dominic Mysterio is.
Yeah, you can't shit on Sammy's in-ring performance. Because the dude is good, but yeah, he's I don't know.
If they could crack it, if they could just figure out the perfect way to use Sammy, they would have a damn nuclear weapon of heat from the crowd that would just pay to see him get his ass kicked.
Yeah, so. Colin Jost's book is named A Very Punchable Face, and I think that describes Sammy Guevara pretty perfectly.
Yeah, so this was great. And then I love Action Andretti coming out, getting the save. Hell of a spot for that dude to be put in, right? 2 weeks in a row. He beats Chris Jericho last week. This week he's in a segment with Ricky Starks and Jericho to kick off the show. Most people watching the beginning of the show. And then he catches a fireball for his troubles later in the program. A nice fireball, too. That got him right smack clean. That's straight out of 1980s Memphis right there. Jerry Lawler would have been proud.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. A hell of a way to start the show. It's always good to see Ricky Starks get a few minutes. And, I mean, they leaned into it last night. You know, they didn't cut it short.
And last night, too, felt properly paced. I don't know if you caught it, but, like, for the first hour of Dynamite, probably had the most promo time and mic time out of any episode, at least since we've been covering this podcast, maybe ever. There was a ton of promos in that first hour of the program.
Yeah, and I didn't write them all down, so if you think of one, you know, and want to bring it up, I mostly wrote down the matches that happened, with the exception of, like, Swerve and Keith Lee.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you think of one, bring it up. But the next thing I have written down is Death Triangle versus the Elite, and I didn't get to see this one. I only was kind of like skipping around and things because I had limited time today, and I didn't get to see it last night. But I heard this one was pretty brutal. I saw a couple of clips here and there, but didn't get to see the entire thing. But it looks like this one got kind of out of hand on the brutality segment part of it.
I mean, yeah, they went hard. We got Kenny Omega, the return of Omega's trusted broom wrapped in barbed wire that got a couple spots in it. I mean, I don't know what, like, these two teams just have amazing chemistry. Like, we say it every week. Like, it's just a way to, I could watch these guys wrestle for the rest of the year and for the rest of next year, too, if they just want to keep the titles, keep them going back and forth and just have these six dudes in the ring all the time. I loved the violence was necessary because based off of how this feud has gone up to this point, right? And then at the very end with Nick, I think it was, after they got the win on Phoenix, Death Triangle jumps him with a hammer and beats him up and bloodies him up. And Nick's in the corner, kind of cowering, his blood pouring from his head. His brother tries to, drag his body over in front of him to protect his brother. They beat the shit out of him too. So, like, Death Triangle has fully leaned into being the heels here. And so now I think, was it next week? It's a Falls Count Anywhere. And then 7 we get a ladder match. Yeah. So, yeah, this was a good. It had good high spots. They went through tables. This was what you come to expect from these two teams.
Yeah. It's probably not too much to talk about in the Moxley versus Darius Martin angle.
We got to talk about Danielson's promo. That's what came up next.
Gotcha.
This is what I actually want to talk about. Stokely Hathaway.
Raggedy bitch.
I'm about to say, okay, so you did see it. This was, my God.
Yeah, he shared I guess he had photoshopped the, unless they did it during the show, because I didn't see it during the show itself, but there's a picture today that he tweeted out, and it's Danielson with the lower third, and it says raggedy bitch.
Yeah, so Danielson comes out he cuts a promo on MJF talking about William Regal, standard babyface stuff, right? It's not bad, but it's nothing memorable, you know? And then out comes, he calls out MJF, get your ass out here, I'm going to beat you up. And then all he goes, Ethan Page's music hits, and out comes Page, and out comes Stokely. And those people booed the hell out of those two guys. So good on them for Ethan Page. We've talked about the potential that guy has. He's great on the mic. He starts in on it. Hathaway starts getting his insults in. They call Danielson vegetable man and all this kind of stuff. And then Danielson's like, did you just call me a vegetable man with that shiny forehead? And then, of course, you get to Stokely like, you raggedy bitch. And it was so good that you could hear Taz crack up on commentary over the broadcast. So, like, whatever they're paying Stokely, it's not worth it. Because this dude... They should just give Stokely the gimmick of every single week become a meme. I don't care what you do. We need you to become a meme on social media, on Twitter. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, we got the Rest in Peace New Jack as they were just beating up some random guy. We get Raggedy Bitch this week.
Yeah, just for his Twitter follow alone, it's gold.
Yeah, and I think this can be WWE has Paul Heyman, and I think AEW can have Stokely Hathaway, where it's a manager. The pairing with Ethan Page is perfect. And to have Stokely and his little stable of guys where Stokely can be the mouthpiece and, try to break the internet every single week. This is gold mine. This shit was absolutely fantastic. 2 great promos within the first hour of Dynamite. Great stuff.
I love it. Yeah, give us more Stokely. We will gladly take it. Anything you want to give us with the man, we'll take it for sure. So Guns and FTR, they're just dogging old FTR lately, aren't they?
Yeah, I don't know what. Okay, so if we want to put our tinfoil hat on and get real conspiracy theory with it, the reason FTR is being booked this way is because Tony has a feeling that they're going to go back to WWE next year.
Yeah.
That's a tinfoil hat. Who knows if that's true? Or it could be you're booking FTR this way because you're trying to bring them down so that you can do some kind of redemption narrative and have them eventually at some point in 2023 win the tag team titles again. Now, obviously, that would have to mean you would have to get them off the Acclaimed because you'd have 2 babyface teams. I don't necessarily know, unless you're planning on turning FTR heel, which is a very dumb move that I don't think the fans are going to get behind at all. So, I think, what do they say, their contracts might be up in April? It's not
That's the rumor, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, it'll be here before you know it. So it could be that. Also, you have, right now, they're the AAA champions and the IWGP champions. I don't think Tony has any say on when they can lose those belts, right? They're not his, AAA is not his company. New Japan's not his company. I don't even know. We don't even know if the FTR is are they going to have a match at Wrestle Kingdom? Wrestle Kingdom's in January. Are they?
Yeah, I don't know.
Are they defending the belts? I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything.
I mean, by all reports, Sasha Banks is already in Japan. The rumor she's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom. We know Kenny's going to be at Wrestle Kingdom against Ospreay, but I haven't heard anything about FTR. But anyway, this was a good match. If you're going to beat FTR, that's the way that you beat them, right? With a fluky roll up by the ropes where the Guns can hold it. We've talked about the potential we think the Guns can have. Letting them be down in Ring of Honor, I think, when it finally gets up and running, is a good spot for them to be at, so that you kind of spread your tag teams out against, across multiple promotions you have here to let guys get some experience. Because, Dynamite's only 2 hours long. You're not doing anything on Rampage, really. So, like, between the Elite and Death Triangle and Best Friends and House of Black, you're already, like, you're bloated at the top, so to speak. So the guys like the Guns, they can go down to Ring of Honor and feud with the Briscoes for a little bit, maybe take the titles off them. That's a good spot for them to be at. So,
yeah.
I don't know. we'll see what happens with FTR going forward, but you hope the conspiracy is not true. You hope that they're not going back to WWE. But if that's what they want to do, I wouldn't be mad at a Revival versus the Usos, or the Revival versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, or anything like that. You know, if WWE decides to put an emphasis on tag team wrestling once the Revival gets back there, I mean, that's not a bad way to go, I don't think.
Yeah, it would hurt to see him go back, but at this point, I don't know if I would be shocked.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about this before we started rolling, but there's more stuff coming out about the Miro.
Yeah, I saw some.
You've been seeing that, yeah, that they had some creative for him at Full Gear, and he rejected it and said no. And I think Meltzer went on his radio show and was basically like, look, outside of Danielson and Moxley, a lot of these WWE guys don't want to do jobs, which doesn't bode well.
Yeah. That was that's what it said. It was like Miro just refused to lose, and so they were like, okay, well, we'll come back around next cycle and see what we can figure out. But
I mean, is he on his way back? It has to be. I think a lot of these dudes, when they left WWE, it was because the old man was in charge, right?
Yeah.
And the big bad wolf has now gone by the wayside, and there's a new sheriff in town. To exhaust all the potential metaphors you can exhaust about somebody leaving and a new person coming back. So, I don't know if Miro wants to go back too. He probably fits better in WWE, right, than he does in AEW.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you going to do with him over there?
I mean, they'll find something for him. You have more. I mean, you have 5 hours of programming as opposed to really 2. So there are, different ways to use him. Also, I don't know if did he ever really feel like he fit AEW? There are guys that feel like they fit AEW, right? John Moxley, yeah. Perfect example, right? There's like a punk rock element, a kind of a fuck you element that Moxley has that AEW has sort of been built around, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and even last night where he was like pretty much saying he was glad he concussed Hangman Page.
Yeah, like he feels like AEW. I don't know if Miro ever felt that way.
Yeah, you might have a point.
Even when he had the TNT title and we were praising him for his stuff, I don't know if it felt true to what that promotion is.
Yeah.
And it's, in some similar ways, it's kind of similar to what CM Punk was, right? CM Punk probably, to his detriment, he probably never felt like he was really AEW, and that's why, all the shit went down that it did.
Yeah, it's weird though, because if any of the people that have come in should have fit AEW, it feels like it should have been Punk.
Absolutely, yeah.
That all got fucked up somehow.
Yeah, because I mean the ancestry of you can trace the ancestry of AEW back to guys like Samoa Joe and CM Punk and Danielson and all those early Ring of Honor guys. I mean that's it. The roots come right through those guys, but shit happens and politics happen and egos happen, and he's still at CM Punk, still on the AEW roster page though.
Yeah.
If they could ever figure that out in 2023. If you really wanted to steal some damn thunder from WWE and WrestleMania, I mean, I don't know if he would be healed by April, but if WWE is going to have The Rock and Stone Cold and John Cena in Hollywood, in the week of WrestleMania, MJF is involved in something and fucking that shit hits. You don't think the internet's gonna fucking break at that point?
Yeah.
And he comes out and calls out the Young Bucks and Omega and stuff. Probably never gonna happen, but you could steal some momentum that way.
Yeah. So the next thing I've got is Swerve and Keith Lee's segment from last night.
Did you see all this segment?
I didn't. No, I saw parts of it.
Okay, let's try. I'll try to be positive here first. The fucking top rope stomp through the cinder block onto Keith Lee, a thing of beauty. Absolutely perfect. What a great way to end that segment. On the flip side of that, nobody gives a damn, clearly, about Parker Boudreaux and whoever the hell this other tatted up Post Malone looking dude was with Swerve, right? If Swerve is going to be a mogul and have a guy like Rick Ross in his corner, who is a very well-known rapper, sold a ton of records, you got to put somebody else besides Swerve. He can't be a mogul and go get 2 jobbers to be by his side. Like, why the hell was this not Lance Archer and, I don't know, somebody else that the AEW fan base knows? Go out and get a freaking indie wrestler. I was looking at some, because I was just thinking last night after the segment aired and after Dynamite went off, I was like, who could they have gotten that's just out there floating around that you could have brought in with Swerve to make it a big deal? I don't know. Nick Aldis is out there as a free agent, unless he's going to WWE. Well, could you bring him in to be Swerve's lackey? Like we said, Lance Archer's already on the roster.
Yeah, what's he doing?
He might be in Japan, but if he is, like, fucking just hold off and wait till he's back in the States to do this. Chris Masters. You familiar with Chris Masters?
Mm-mm.
Early 2000s WWE Master Lock was thought was going to be the next big thing. He had some personal trouble, ended up not working out. He's later on in his career wrestling on the indies. He's in his late 30s. What about if you brought him in to be one of Swerve's lackey? He's still fucking huge. He's still 6'4", 6'5", 250. The thing about Parker Boudreaux is that he's not ready to be on television yet. And
Yeah.
it's AEW is so good that when they bring people in and put them on television that aren't good, they stand out like a sore thumb. And Parker Boudreaux, everything from the way he moves in the ring, his like exaggerated movements, like he hits Keith in the back and then was just like stomping it. He just looks fucking stupid, basically. Like, I don't know. I don't see the potential that clearly Tony sees in him if he's going to pair him up with a guy like Swerve, who is one of your top dudes in the company and has the potential to be one of the top heels in your company, if he's not already. The people that complaining that this segment fell flat, I think that's where it fell flat at, was the introduction of Parker Boudreaux and whoever the hell this other dude was. We ain't even seen the other dude. The fans have no connection to him whatsoever.
Because 3 weeks ago, wasn't Boudreaux part of the Trustbusters?
Right.
Shit.
And again, our folder for AEW needs writers. There's another stack. Throw it in there. We'll have a compelling case by the end of the year for why this show needs a writing staff. But yeah. Last time we saw Parker Boudreaux, he was with the Trustbusters. Now, I guess he's not anymore. I love the fact of giving Swerve a stable, though. Mogul Affiliates. That's a great name.
Yeah.
People didn't like Rick Ross. I loved Rick Ross. I thought that was great. I mean, he said he told Keith he was a big motherfucker right there live on TV. They didn't even, somebody fell asleep at the wheel for the little mute button.
Oops.
I saw some people on internet were like, oh, Tony's going to be pissed. FCC fine. First of all, that just shows a clear ignorance of how broadcasting works. Like, the FCC has no control over cable television. If this would have happened on NBC or Fox, because it's over the air, yeah, they would have got hit with the FCC fine because you can't say motherfucker on that. You can say whatever you want on cable television. The reason why a lot of shows and networks don't is because you get pressure from the advertisers, right? Doesn't have anything to do with the government. So, okay, one motherfucker slipped. Who's going to give a shit, right? Anyway, that's off on a tangent. But I just saw a bunch of that. That was all over Reddit and Twitter, and I was just like, oh, people don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Keith Lee because he's having to sell for these dudes and he's getting jumped, and the crowd was just silent because I think the crowd was just trying to figure out who these dudes were. But
yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
Well, they redeemed themselves to finish the show out with Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida. I mean, clearly match of the night, match of the fucking month. Probably brought the house down. Fucking crowd was insane. I saw a bunch of people talking about it online today. Just, I don't know what more you could ask for in terms of a match between these two.
This was the best AEW women's match they've ever had. And we said that about Hayter versus Storm at the pay-per-view. I said that was the best women's match I've ever had, and now this is the best women's match I've ever had. These two women beat the hell out of each other. They were stiff. They were intense. Great chemistry. And, listen, I think there are better complete overall professional wrestlers working right now in the women's division. Like, I think Becky is a better professional wrestler in totality than Jamie Hayter, right? Because like we've talked about, there's promo skills and there's charisma and all this other stuff that goes into it outside of just the bell-to-bell action, right? But in terms of between the ropes bell-to-bell action, Jamie Hayter is the greatest women's wrestler in the world right now. I mean, I don't know how you can watch her two matches. Like, watch this match and then go watch Bayley and Becky from Monday Night Raw. And if you're just being objective, watch those two matches and tell me, out of those four women, who's the best women's wrestler. It's probably Jamie Hayter, Sheeta, and then some combination of Becky and Bayley. And again, that's no offense to Becky and Bayley. They're obviously tremendous, huge, iconic superstars. And I'm not saying Jamie Hayter is a better wrestler, all things considered, than Becky. But when it comes to hitting those ropes and doing the matches, it's Jamie Hayter's at the top. She's in a league of her own right now.
Yeah, this was, just slap after slap, lariat after lariat, just like you said. Just beating the ever-loving hell out of each other.
Yeah, this was absolutely great. Yeah, like you said, the crowd was into it from Jump Street. Like, there was no... And what a refreshing way. Coming off where the AEW women's division was at 5 months ago, to now you're ending a Dynamite, and you have Hikaru Shida, Saraya, Toni Storm, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, all ending the program, and it feeling like a big deal. That's a hell of an improvement from where we were at. And if we get Sasha Banks walking through the door here in the next couple weeks, that is one hell of a division that you've made in a very short amount of time.
So the next pay-per-view, is that February?
It's March. I think it's March. Something. Yeah, they're in San Francisco.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's still a while to build up new stuff for that, but yeah, the women's division is heating up for sure lately. There's been a lot of bangers there, and I think it's heading in the right direction. Do you think that's got anything to do with Kenny being back?
It could. I don't know we don't know how it works back there. I think Kenny probably has Tony's ear about stuff. Yeah. I think Tony, to his credit, is really cognizant and receptive of internet criticism, right? So when people are putting him on blast 4 or 5 months ago for being like, hey, the women's division sucks, they deserve better. And then you get the natural groundswell that happened with the fans getting behind Jamie Hayter. And then Hikaru Shida gets healthy. So it was just kind of a natural combination of probably just a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
Because all they're letting these women do, right, they're just letting them go out and wrestle like the men and beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah, but yeah. True. I was going to say they're putting together better stories for him, but wasn't much of a story for this match. It was just like, go out there and beat the shit out of each other. Yeah,
Shida won a chance to, challenge Jamie Hayter. And, even though Hayter is, I guess, still technically a heel, she's not being treated that way by the fan base, right? She's a baby face. Everybody's just...
I had to think about it for a second when I saw, Britt going to get in the ring with her. I was like, wait a minute. I almost forgot that, she's Team Britt.
Right. And, that's the ace you have in your back pocket, right? And everybody knows it's coming. At some point, Britt's going to stab Jamie in the back. Mm-hmm. And so then you'll have a really hot angle at that point. Because Britt is the one constant in that division, right? She is... she's an impact player. And right now, even though she doesn't have the belt, everything is kind of revolving around her. Which just goes to how good of a performer she is. And, really, you go back 3 years ago from where she was at then to where she's at now. It's night and day. the improvement that she's made. Because when Sasha Banks come in, who's going to be her first opponent? It'll be Britt Baker. If Sasha does indeed come in.
I mean, the writing's kind of on the wall, right?
Yeah. So, this is probably one of the most exciting things that's happening right now in AEW, right? Is the women's division kind of coming into its own, outside of the MJF stuff now, of course, but
yeah, for sure. Because it was pretty fucking boring several months ago, quite honestly.
Yeah.
And then now with Saraya there and possibility, more than likely, of Sasha Banks coming in, Hayter getting the belt. I mean, it's looking bright. The future's looking bright for sure.
And so next week, if this was WWE, next week what they would have is Jamie, Britt, and Rebel versus Saraya, Sheeta, and Toni Storm, right? You put them all in the tag. Now, AEW doesn't book stuff like that. They probably
every once in a while
they probably should, right?
Yeah.
But they tend to have, when people are feuding, they kind of stay away from each other until the pay-per-view, which kind of leads to like some wonky, uneven pacing. But that match makes sense. Just put them in the ring with each other next week.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's probably it for the week. Rampage looks like it could be fun this evening. I think they're trying to step that up. It looks like. I feel like I read that the ratings were a little better last week for that. It'd be kind of hard not to be a little better because the ratings were so low.
And I mean, they just put John Moxley on the program every Friday.
Yeah.
That's now been, for this month, it's been the Moxley show.
Yeah.
He had the match with Takeshita, and then last week he got his ear ripped off by Guevara. Again, why is John Moxley the MVP of AEW? It's because whatever problem there is, he's the answer to it, right?
Yeah,
hey,
let Mox fix it.
Fucking Punk did some stupid shit at the press conference. We need a champion. Oh, okay, put it back on Mox. Hey, Mox, the Rampage ratings are falling. Okay, well, fucking I'll go on Rampage then. Yeah. Hey, you can't take a vacation yet because we got to do this shit. I guess at this point, man's never going to get a vacation, right?
No, it doesn't look like it. Because they'll build something for him to be on the next pay-per-view. So are they going to wait and let him go on vacation fucking after the pay-per-view in March? Or do they let him go get a quick one now and then let him come back and get an angle started? But it doesn't look to be that way. No,
I mean, they're doing this Hangman stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then you got the Blackpool Combat Club. Who knows what the hell's going to happen with it? So, I don't know. I guess our man, hopefully he had some travel insurance or something. Now, he's probably doing okay in the bank anyway. Yeah, you know what I mean?
I'm sure he's fine.
He's all right.
Yeah. So, well, I think that's it for the week, man. Next Friday, which we'll record again between now and then, should be really fun on SmackDown. Should have a pretty fun episode tonight, if you're listening on a Friday. Some good stuff in the works for next Wednesday as well. So, and then if you're in Alabama and listening, some fun stuff coming up in January. GCW will be in North Alabama in Huntsville, and in Florence for that matter, doing shows with New South Wrestling. I believe it's a Saturday and a Sunday, the 20th and 21st, I think, in January.
21st and 22nd, I think. 21st, okay. They're in Huntsville. It's just a GCW show. And then I think on the 22nd, they'll be in Florence with New South. Yeah.
Yeah, should be really fun. I think Patrick and I both might try to go catch the Huntsville show, probably. Will be fun because I've never been to a GCW show. So
I've never been either, and I've kept up with their product a little bit. Obviously we've talked about Nick Gage as the champion, Matt Cardona's over there, Joey Janela, Speedball Mike Bailey. So they got some pretty big indie names. Effie. Yeah. So
that's all exciting. Well, yeah, man, y'all give us a holler. Once again, forgot the Twitter prompt this week. I'm on vacation, so I've been in absolute do-nothing mode. Haven't watched any movies that I planned to watch while I was off. I've watched a lot of reruns of Parks and Rec and The Office, just mindlessly scrolling on my phone, just relaxing. So maybe next week I'll squeeze in some movies while I'm off again. So, and as always, if y'all want to holler at us, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Alabama Slam Pod. Don't wait for a prompt from us. If y'all got something you want to ask it, and we'll try to come up with some other questions to ask y'all, and we'll read your answers on the air again in the following weeks. But yeah, man, I think that's it for the week.
Later, guys.
All right, see y'all next week.